So here's the thing, guys. We are scheduled between 10 and 11. If we get done with everyone's questions before then, we'll wrap up early. But otherwise, I just want to be here to to be a resource. So full disclosure, this literally is supposed to be like an engaging, asking and answering session. So I didn't prepare a whole presentation on SEO or anything like that. This is meant to be engaging. So we'll just get started. Does anybody have a question to get us going this morning? And please don't be shy. If you have a question, I'm sure other people do as well.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is in regards to like location specific social media pages. So as you know, Anna-Vija, I represent a family of restaurants here in town, but also throughout the Southeast. So right now, the way that our social media pages are structured, we have a Facebook and an Instagram specific page for each individual location. As our company continues to grow and our footprint grows, that's not necessarily scalable with a really tiny marketing team. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on merging rather than having, so one of our brands is Amerigo Italian Restaurant, rather than have going on 6 different brand locations. What are your thoughts on merging those into one brand location?
It's a really good question, and it depends on your goals. So, how often, couple clarifying questions. How often are you posting on each of these pages?
We post anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week per page.
Okay, absolutely. So, I'm gonna give you two different options here, and then if you've got follow-up questions. So, the reason that
Sure.
you would want to keep them and post on them at least a couple of times a week is mostly for search engine optimization credit. So it is a smaller drop in the bucket than, let's say, original blogging or video development, but having social media pages claimed and optimized for each of the physical locations gives each of those physical locations a boost in search engine optimization. Now that sort of leads me into things like, I'm sure each location, because I know you, has like a Google My Business
Mhm.
listing, right? And a Yelp and all of the directories,
Mhm.
right? So, in some ways, the social media pages serve as their own kind of directory. Okay. So when you have them, I highly recommend don't get social media pages and then leave them defunct. So like you don't want to just claim them and then leave them and never post, because then especially in the restaurant industry, it could look like maybe you're not open anymore. We saw a lot of that during COVID where people were not updating and they're like, what's happening? So that would be a reason you would want to keep it. Now, a reason you might want to get rid of it, completely understand that that's a lot of work. My next clarifying question
Mhm.
is, are you creating original posting for each location? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, one of the things, if I'm
Mhm.
correct, Allie, you have from memory, you have like, even though you have multiple locations, you have like brands, right? Don't you? Isn't it 6 or 7 brands? How many is it up to now?
We have 7 different concepts
Yeah.
and 15 going on 16 locations.
Right. So hypothetically, what you could do is if you wanted to keep them, but you need to decrease the amount of time that you're spending, you could streamline that into 7 brand strategies where you
Yeah.
say, okay, we're going
Mhm.
to, post for the Amerigo's brand, but we're just going to copy and paste that across multiple location pages,
Mm.
right? Because I'm sure that there's some
Mhm.
some common goals and
Yeah.
food items and all that kind of stuff. And then last question, are you using like a scheduling platform to manage that?
Yeah, we're using Sprout Social.
Okay.
We have found through a fair amount of testing that fewer posts actually works better for us
Mhm.
than posting more frequently.
Yeah.
We also find that our clientele is skews in the like 40 to 65 age range. And we're finding that they're just not overly active on Instagram for brands like Amerigo, very different
Mhm.
from like Jasper's, which is just a different clientele.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at, is just where does it make sense to use our resources in the best
Yeah.
places? So,
Absolutely. And so Social is great for those of you who are wondering about the scheduling platforms. Sprout Social is a good one. My agency uses Hootsuite. That allows us to create, 6+ weeks of content per client and schedule it all out in one batch. And so then we don't have to manually log into each platform every day. And that really
mhm.
helps. One thing I'll note about what Allie just said is a really great observation that your team has come up with, which is at this point, the algorithms on social media, especially for organic posting, are really challenging. In that if you are not getting good engagement on your posts, they will lower your organic reach. So if you're posting 6, 7 times a week, but you don't have people liking and commenting and sharing those posts, the algorithm will assume that people don't want to see that content and they will slowly start lowering who they show it to. So, Allie, that's a great observation that your team has made. It also is helpful because you don't have to make so much content.
Mhm.
But that's where I
Yeah.
would I would start is maybe just saying how can we streamline it into brand silos, and then the other thing is in terms of creation of content, are you doing it like on a daily, a weekly basis? How far in advance are you planning content?
A week. We
Mhm.
plan, so it kind of depends on the market, but we plan on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we schedule out content for the next 7 days. And we'll
Sure.
fill in as needed if there's some timely content or something we
Yeah.
know is going to happen on a certain day. We'll kind of pencil that in to say, okay, we got to post live on this date because this event
You
is
have
happening
to.
or something
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely. So one
Yeah.
of the things, again, just as a suggestion you might try is try 2 weeks at a time. See if you can make it, or just, pick one or two of the brands and say, what if we did a couple weeks at a time? How much time would that open up for you if you batched it in one sitting?
Sure.
Like I said, my agency, we can do about 4 to 6 weeks of content at a time for our clients. And it
Wow.
allows us
Okay.
to really boil it because every time you have to go in and schedule it out and double check the posts, and sounds funny, every time you have to take off one hat and put on another, that's just, it's
Yep.
time to kind of get into it. So maybe try it as a test and say, if we try to do 2 weeks at a time and then look at, that allows us to skip a week. And then what kind of, bandwidth does that give you and your team? Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Allie.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. Anybody else have a question? You guys are welcome to just come off mute with your question if you'd like to.
And I have a question. I've been hesitant to ask it because I don't know if this is too, I guess, too immature a digital marketing question. So
Probably
I'm
not.
okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. Let's put it to the test. I'm an independent consultant and have been 100% staying away from any kind of digital marketing. Honestly, afraid that I would do more harm with it than good.
Okay.
And honestly, because everything that I've done so far has been through referral, and I'm like, that's why invest? My time is already spread so thin as it is. Like, do I need to do one more thing? Now I'm finding, I guess, a couple things. I think one, if I want more consistency and clients, or at least more opportunity to pick the type of clients that I want, I'm going to have to get the message out in a broader way. I'm not really sure how to do that. So I'm thinking about this. And also, because I'm kind of the product, at least at the moment, I'm about to go on this journey, like on an educational journey. I really want to kind of tell the story as I go. I think the folks who are going to be interested in my services are going to be interested in this journey, or at least it should. If they're going to connect with it ever, they're going to connect with it now, and it's going to be about a 2-year journey. So I don't know. This, like I said, this is a super basic question, but what does digital marketing look like for somebody like me? How can I direct it to these deciders who are like probably C-levels and senior execs, right? I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know where to start. I haven't blogged. I'm a decent writer, but I'm just at scratch. So I'm
Yeah.
just curious, after you just heard all that, what pops in your mind in terms of like, what's the next step or what should I plan on?
Yeah. And tell me what your business is. Like you said, my services. What services do you offer, Matthew?
I think you would call me change management consulting right now. So it's like strategic planning, program design, program execution. And then I'm actually, through this educational journey, I'm going to be kind of rewriting that answer so I have a better elevator pitch.
Sure.
But that's the essence of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So basically from scratch in a service-based business where you are the brand, you are going to probably get better ROI for your time by nurturing the connections that you already have than trying to pull in a bunch of new people. So I will give you my experience, and then you can sort of, take what you need. So for example, when I started my agency 7 years ago, it was just me and I was a service-based business and I was like, hey, it's me and I'm the brand and I can do your marketing. What I did was I sent out an email to everyone I knew through MailChimp, but to everyone I knew. And it said, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while because I hadn't talked to most people in a while. I haven't talked to you in a bit. Just wanted to let you know that I'm doing marketing now. And here are a couple of the services I offer. If you know of anyone who's looking for these services, please give them my information. So there's a couple things there. One, I didn't ask anyone directly for their business. So I didn't come and go like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, but do you want to hire me to do marketing? Like, because that can make
Right.
people uncomfortable. And then instead of being like, hey, how can I refer her or put her in this box to think about her later? It becomes, I didn't want to hire her and I don't want to think about that. So I just made it an option like, hey, I just wanted to give you an update so that this is the box that I live in now. And here's when you think of marketing, you should think of me and vice versa. Through referrals alone of people that I knew, I got like 17 clients in the first 6 months. Now, granted, those clients were not $2,500 a month. They were like $250 a month, but they were still clients, right? And then from there, I started to narrow and grow the business. Now, what I'll tell you is that to this day, 7 years later, Dan, as you guys met Dan, hi Dan. Dan is our business development lead, and so Dan has a full-time job with us to bring in clients and to nurture leads and to get us out into the community. But still, to this day, our number one source of new business is referrals from people we know. So, and honestly, it's people I know. So it's people that have known me for a long time. Like Dan knows people, but he just moved here from Australia a year ago. So he's still making a network in Nashville. But those connections, if you've already met someone and you nurture them with things like even just an email once a month, an email blast to remind them that you're there, connecting with them intentionally on social media, and then posting things regularly, especially on LinkedIn. Since COVID, LinkedIn has really had a new place and meaning in B2B services. And really looking at just this, like staying present. So checking in with people and saying, hey, what do you have going on? I'm going to this networking event that I think would be good for you. Do you want to come with me? Providing resources, doing webinars. You talked about your journey, doing webinars where you can invite people and say, hey, I'm going to be talking about X. If you're interested, come to that, and just offering that as a resource is going to probably, that sounds weird, be the best use of your time. And from there, you can maximize that content. So if you write a blog, you can not only post it on a website, but you can send it out in an email blast. And you can share it to LinkedIn and all your social media. And then you can copy that blog word for word and post it as an article on LinkedIn. And then it'll tell everybody that you wrote an article. See what I'm saying? So like, there's ways that you can create content. And if you make a strategy, you can say, all right, my number one priority is to cultivate all of the people I already know. Because once I've met you at a networking event or I've met you on a webinar, I already there's a glimmer of memory there or of familiarity. And so I'm going to be more interested in something that you're doing than someone that's just serving me a Facebook ad.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. Is that helpful? Do you have any follow-up questions?
I'm so glad you asked that. I do have. And so I heard a lot there, and so there's a lot to take away. But when you said, so LinkedIn, got it, like that all makes sense. But when you said, hey, post and kind of share across social media, for what I just described to you and kind of for the strategy you just described, what social media should I be working with then? Like, I mean, is I don't know if there's like a blanket answer in the digital marketing world of like, whatever you have time to do it all, or like, based on who I have for clients and potential clients, if there's like, hey, don't waste your time with this. That's just going to be extra time.
So let's take Allie's example earlier. Who's your target audience? What do they look like? You mentioned C-suite executives, but.
Are you asking me or Allie? So sorry.
Sorry, I'm asking you. I don't think Allie knows who your target audience is,
okay.
but I could be surprised.
So
take a stab at it. See what we get.
That's probably right now. It's probably senior operations executives, COOs, and there might be some folks in HR that would be interested as well. So it's going to be, So that's the short answer.
And then, are those traditionally men or women? Statistically.
If it's, I'd say it's actually a pretty even mix. If it's ops, it's a lot of times men, but when you mix in HR, it's pretty even mix.
It becomes women. Yeah. And then, what is their general age range?
Probably from 35 to 55.
Sure. So looking at those demographics, what we can tell is that those people are probably not on Snapchat, right? They're probably not like, they might be on TikTok for personal reasons, because I feel like the whole world is now, but you're probably not going to get a lot of benefit out of some of the newer, younger, trending social media channels, especially as a business services company. I wouldn't spend my time there. From there, you've got the big four. So you have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Okay. Facebook and LinkedIn are probably going to have a slightly higher age demographic. Like, they skew a little bit higher now because people who, adapted it or adopted it in the mid 2000s, the millennials, and then have kind of aged up, so to speak. And then Facebook in general, I think the last time I checked, had the most, had the oldest user, like active user demographic. From there, again, LinkedIn is very important because you're looking at business to business. So interestingly, if you were to just make posts on Facebook and LinkedIn, it's what I was mentioning to Allie earlier, you could duplicate that content. So you could create the post, and the post format on each of those platforms is really similar. So you could literally just copy and paste it from one to the other and probably do just fine, because that's activity, right? If you wanted to get into Twitter, you would probably have to do it pretty often to be effective. But I don't think that someone is going to necessarily be like, oh my gosh, this tweet is so amazing that just happened to run past you, right? So unless you feel like you have an audience on Twitter, you're probably not going to get as much ROI there. We normally only include Twitter as a search engine optimization tool, which you're not to that level where you're developing SEO yet.
Right.
And then with Instagram, you have to have photography to go with Instagram and curate an entire look and vibe and feel and all those things. So normally with business to business services, we don't recommend Instagram unless you have a way to consistently get high quality photography that's custom to your business. Because it's a lot of, I'm sure you guys have seen this, it's a lot of hands on laptops. It's a lot of hands on computers and a lot of like people hands at tables in coffee meetings. Business to businesses use a lot of pictures with hands in it. It's a lot of people's hands, right? And those don't usually gain as much engagement as people's faces that are smiling and engaging. So if you were like, hey, I want to do a photo shoot a couple of times a year and gain that photography, awesome. Otherwise, you should probably stick to places like Facebook and LinkedIn, where you can do like link and article sharing and not have to populate your own photography as much.
Great. Anna, that was super helpful. Thank you for
absolutely.
doing all that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matthew. Who's got another question? And you guys are welcome. Again, you don't have to type it in the chat. You're welcome to just come off mute and ask the question.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
You have a question for me, Fortune?
I do. Okay. Oh, I was like, am I on camera?
You are now. You're good.
Thanks. Hailing all the way from Toronto.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for having this.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question. So I have, I'm an ideapreneur. Does that make sense? Or serial ideas, right?
Yes, I feel that in my soul. Yes.
Right? So I had this idea that, and I'm okay to share the idea because it's fine.
Sure.
So I was like, we're moving into the digital age and I work in the not-for-profit sector.
Hmm.
And I was like, you have those who are homeless and, asking for spare change. And I'm like, it's crazy because we live in a world where we're going digital. So how do you give people change if we're digital?
Correct.
Right? So I was kind of like, okay, so the first thing to do is develop an app. Develop an
Hmm.
app. I don't know if you sell it to the government and have them give them a code, and then if you wanted to give them change, you just enter the code, put the amount you wanted to put, and then you press send. But it's like, how do you market that to the government? You know what I mean? Like, how do you, or is it the
Ooh.
government? Is the government the target audience? Like, how do you get people on that? Yeah.
Sure. That's a huge question. So we're going to have a whole separate webinar just for that. Here's
Okay.
here's what I'm going to give you as sort of my initial thoughts or ideas, Fortune, is that first of all, I don't do government work. I have not had that experience yet, but I do
Okay.
know other marketing and media companies that work with the government.
Mhm.
I will tell you that a lot of it is a relationship game.
Got you.
So a lot of it is who do you know in a certain department or, in a certain
Mhm.
sector or, whatever, someone who can make decisions or lobby with or for you to get the government to do things. And so one of the resources that I'm going to suggest to you is SCORE. I don't know that they have it in Toronto is my only thing. My good friend Diane Lockhart is on the call and she would probably know better than I would. But we, there's resources that we have that are, people that can volunteer to sort of help you through what if I want to do a government contract or a nonprofit or that kind of thing.
Okay.
Diane literally just left the call rather than answer that question. I'm
Mhm.
sure that was an accident because she's been in and out like 3 times, but that was really funny timing, and I'm going to tease her about it later. So here's what I will say. If you know someone or you're in a nonprofit sector, I think there's three different sort of types of business that I look at. There's private, right, business, which
Mhm.
is where we do our work. It's like, hey, you own a company or you run a company and we do it and we're going to do business together. And there's not as much red tape. It's just what we can negotiate directly.
Okay.
Then there's nonprofit, which has a lot more, red tape and restrictions, as you know.
Mhm.
And so you may be able to find a nonprofit organization or start one that would allow you to sort of, grow your reach and have a different approach to this issue. And then there's the government work where you're going directly to, and that has a lot of red tape and boxes to check. So what I'll say is, I think that if this is the preliminary idea that you're unpacking, there's probably a lot of extra questions to answer here around what the goals for the company are.
Okay.
So do you want it to be something where you're willing to do the extra work on the front end because you think that it would be the most successful if it was government supported, but that could take longer and more money and or effort? Maybe
Mm.
that's worth it. Or is it something where you go, no, I'm going to start a nonprofit and try to partner with other nonprofits or get grants? You
Mhm.
would probably have to do a bunch of research to see, are
Mm.
there grants that allow for, development of digital or technology to help our current homeless population or specific things, the mental health crisis or, the income gap, like that kind of thing,
Mm.
right? Because if you could find, hey, there's half a dozen grants that I could get for this, maybe it's worth starting a nonprofit to see if you can get that money to develop the tech.
Mm.
Right. And then that third option being, to privatize business, which is where you say, I'm going to go find investors and or get a loan and try to, develop this app on my own. Now, interestingly, I don't, I'm not in the tech space, but it sounds like what you're looking for is basically like a Venmo with a really specific, you know, niche. Right. So the question becomes, is that something that is needed? And not to it's a brand new idea. So I don't want to downplay the idea, but one of the questions when I'm teaching workshops on building your brand, one of the questions I ask is always, how big is this problem? And does it have other potential solutions? So, is this problem so big? Like if you went out and just asked 20 random people, like you go out to dinner tonight and you turn around to your server and you say, hey, how often are you trying to give change to a homeless person, but you can't because you don't have any on you? And would you, if you had a way to, to send them digital money? If you're not getting a lot of engagement in that, that might not be something that somebody's looking for, right?
Okay.
But if you were to say, hey, I'm going to use Venmo as an example because it's very prevalent and easy to use. If there was a way that, homeless people or people that needed help could have some sort of, little sign with their Venmo or their something, and that was readily available and you saw it, would you be likely to give them, something? Like that might be, do you see what I'm saying? Like maybe there's
Of
a way
course.
that you can address the problem, but without you having to make an entirely new digital platform or app. So just throwing some ideas out at you, but I think that there's some research that you could do behind developing a solution here.
That's great. Thank you. That allows
Yeah.
me to see a wider picture, because I went online and I was like, I'm going to code an app, and I did that. And it was
Nice.
like, okay, but then it's like, how do you get it out and how do you make it a thing? So
Yeah.
just thinking about those that, get left behind as the digital world becomes bigger, So.
Well, and there's things that you can do, Fortune, that are like, I'll call them guerrilla tactics, right? So, if you have this app, people have to download, the app in order to use it and then set it up, I'm assuming, with their bank information or to load money into it. But from there, there has to be a reason to use it. So again, maybe thinking through, even if I had an app, how would I get people to adopt and set up the app? And then how would they connect it in the real world? So how are they going to look at someone who is on the street who would normally be holding a coffee cup asking for change, and instead they're holding a sign that says, like, Venmo me here with their, with their tag or their link or something, right? And so that's something that I think that you're talking about, a behavioral change. So it's not something as simple as like, hey, do I want to help the homeless? Absolutely, I do. But I have a monthly donation that goes to the Nashville Rescue Mission, because that to me is a very direct way of doing it, where it's not, do I have change on me? It literally is like PayPal sends an automatic payment every month so that it just does it, right? So, and again, that's a behavioral change that I made, where I went, I want to help this population, but I never have change on me. So instead, I'm going to give it to an organization that takes that money and provides food and shelter and clothing and all those things. Yeah.
There is an app called, sorry to jump in, called Pay It Forward. And I'm almost certain that the way they incentivize use is they'll make suggestions. And I think it has something where you can track other users. So if there's users within your social circle or users within your area, you can kind of track their kindness metrics. And I think rather than it being monetary, it suggests random acts of kindness. So I guess a lot of cafes do have that Pay It Forward, where you can pay for someone's coffee, you can pay for someone's meal. I think there's also like a listing where it shows people that incorporate with the Pay It Forward app. So I mean, that's my only experience of it. I think I had the app on my phone for a while, but I'll be honest, I'm probably not kind enough. I think I just stopped using it after all. Like shame.
That's real. Yeah.
That's that behavioral change though, Dan, that we were talking about, right? Which is, there's an app that exists, but you have to remember to use it in a specific moment and turn it into a habit. So that would be a great place to start looking to see, like, what are they doing and how are they doing it?
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my first question. I'll be back.
Yeah, you're good. Anybody else have a question?
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have childcare today, so I'm driving in my car to keep my child contained so I can pay attention.
No worries.
I am Diane's niece, by the way.
Okay.
So I started a speech therapy private practice earlier this year. Been a speech therapist for 10 years, but have had zero business and marketing courses through high school or college. So that has been a learning curve for me this year. When it comes to building a website, I have some questions about like images that are used on the website. My husband is, he's kind of managed that piece of it, and he always says, no, we're not using Adobe stock. We're not using Adobe stock. We don't want to have stock photos. I always just gravitate towards Adobe stock because it's just so easy. And then I kind of shy away from like vector images or just things that don't have people in them that are just like, I don't know, like for speech, we have like a microphone for voice, fork and spoon for swallowing. Like we have just, like very basic pictures to go
icons,
into those pages. Yeah. So I guess my question is, what is recommended when it comes to websites and for social media to be using image-wise?
Yeah. So great question. So first of all, your instincts to use pictures of people are very good. However, they don't have to be the only pictures you use. You just want to use them often enough that they keep people, like as you're scrolling down a page, that they keep people engaged and paying attention. It is very healthy to break up the page with things like icons, boxes, background textures, things that are, like graphics. That's totally fine. It keeps, again, the difference in what you're looking at keeps people engaged, and it draws the eye to different areas accordingly. For the imagery itself, let me start there. Yes, pictures of happy, smiling people that are using your products or services successfully. Perfect. People are going to respond to human faces best. And if it's an example of how they could look or feel using your products or services, that's great. That being said, I understand that it would be hard to find stock images that specifically narrate your business, right? So stock is easy to go to, but it also is going to do a couple of things. One, people can usually tell if it's a stock photo. It just feels stocky. Like, I don't know how else to say that, but like usually when people look at it, it's got that, kind of stock feel. And then also, again, hands at computers. Also, stock images are not going to get you any search engine optimization credit. So because they're owned by someone else, they've been indexed by someone else, and they've been used all over the place, you are technically missing an opportunity to boost your search engine rankings by using original photography. So if you want, like, stock as a placeholder, absolutely makes sense. You're small, you're starting a new business, use what you got to use to get out there and make it work. When you're able to focus on it and say, hey, I really want to spend a little bit of time or money improving this section, what we normally do, or what in our experience, we will schedule a photo shoot with a local photographer. So not something where it's thousands and thousands of dollars, but we will make a list. We call it a shot list. Here are all the different photos that we want to get. So we want to get a photo of this person, engaging with this person. We want to get a picture of this room. We want to get a picture of, people meeting and shaking hands or whatever it is. We make a whole shot list, and then we book a photographer for just a couple of hours. And we will stage it. So we'll invite a couple of people to act as models so they represent the parts, right? We have everybody bring 2 or 3 outfits so that they can change. And, you get them from the back and they look like a different person because they were in a blue shirt. And then you put them in a white shirt and from the front and they look like a different person. I laugh. If you go on my social media, you will see photos of me in all kinds of different outfits. Those are taken in single day shots. So I will bring like 15 different outfits and we'll go to a whole bunch of different places. And, we just take photos for 2 or 3 hours. And then that supplies me for 4 or 6 months of social media. Right. So, if you get a photo shoot done and you're prepared with, these are the shots we want to get, we've got the people and the outfits and all that stuff, then you can get website photography in a single sitting. Current rates in the Nashville area, you're probably looking at somewhere between $500 and $1,000 for a single shot, a single shoot, which is different. And normally from that, we will get about 30 to 60 images, depending on how long they're there and kind of how many scenes we've set up, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. So, the single shoot concept gives you that really high quality content. And then from there, when you own the photos, you can name them with some search engine words, right? That are around your business, your keywords, and then upload those to the website. And then you also have those photos for social media, for emails, for sales collateral, anything else that you would want to use them for, you can use them as well.
Okay, that's perfect. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm
no,
on.
You're
okay,
good.
Thank you so much. That's perfect. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And if you need any referrals to photographers, let me know, Elizabeth.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Questions?
Anna-Vija, I have a follow-up question about that.
Yeah.
When you say that stock images don't help your search engine optimization, so for example, we use Canva to create a lot of our social media graphics. And so when we're doing things like our rewards program, we're having double points for 4th of July weekend coming up. A lot of times we'll create something in Canva that just is 4th of July-ish and put some text on it, maybe our logo, whatever. And that gets like close to 0 engagements. We'll have like a handful of likes on it. Is that because it was made in Canva?
Not necessarily. So without seeing the actual images, Allie, I couldn't tell you specifically. Do the pictures, do the what you're doing, does it have pictures of people eating or food or drinks? Or is it just like the Canva stock templates? That's why. So people are gonna like when they're scrolling through their feed and stuff, we are genetically programmed from birth to respond to human faces. Yeah. So if you can find templates or even overwrite the templates, like I'm imagining, like here's your little, Instagram square, make the top portion of it human faces eating and enjoying, and then the bottom 2/3 of it double points on July 4th weekend, and just test it and see if you get something different. Because mixing it up is totally fine. Because, you're going to run out of photography at some point. There's only so many photos. But I think especially with you and how much photo opportunity you have, right? Like if you did, a photo shoot and brought in like on like a real night with people dining, and you had the kitchen make a whole bunch of food and, the bar make a whole bunch of drinks and you staged and whatever, God, you wouldn't, again, I've seen your stuff. So I know like you could do that with your cell phone and just, schedule a nice shoot with a nice iPhone or something. So, cause you're doing the product shots and compilation with people. When we did restaurants and stuff, we used to just have the people that worked there we do that a lot with our there's a spa that we represent and they have 4 people that work there. And I'm like, okay, well now you 2 work here and you 2 are clients, because no one knows any better. Right. Yeah. So have them dress up that way. But that would be my guess. On social media, you're not really losing a lot of SEO credit using stock templates or images. Really, it's specific to your website. So with your website, when you put them on the website, it will index it as a photo that like could help you get credit if you have named it for the keywords and uploaded an original image. But if you're using stock, it doesn't.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions? I know some people came just to listen, but I'm going to say that Mark and Kobe and James have not asked any questions. So if you guys have them, feel free.
I'm not one of those people, but I have a follow-up question.
That's fine. That's what we're here for.
Or not really follow-up, just a different question. How often do you recommend updating webpage pictures or just, layout, just doing updates to my website?
So different kinds of edits. And James, I think you came off mute, so I will call on you in just a second. So different kinds of edits. You do not need to update the full theme and formatted layout of your website on a regular basis. The only reason you would want to do that is to just keep it looking fresh. Unfortunately, in the digital age we live in, you could do that on an annual basis and still be trying to keep up with trends. So it's a constant evolving door. So if you're doing that maybe every year or two, and you're just making sure that like your colors and your layout and your images are fresh, that's great. Your content, however, you want like the actual words you want to update regularly. That doesn't mean you need to rewrite everything on your homepage every other month. We highly recommend that you have a blog on your website and that you're uploading maybe one new blog a month. If you can keep that consistent, that's great. Even if it's once every 2 months, consistently uploading new content is going to tell Google and their search algorithm that you're creating fresh content that would be engaging or interesting to their audience. So if you want to, the other thing we do, we have a search engine package where we build one new page every month. So if it's like, hey, I'm not into writing blogs, but I do have plenty to say about all of the services I offer, make a list of all the services that you offer and prioritize them. Like, where are you getting the most engagement from your audience or your customers on down? And then like every month, just add a new page and format it for that service. So, there's different ways to add content, but you don't need to be reformatting or designing your site on a regular basis. Maybe once every year and a half to 2 years. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. James, did you have a question? I saw you came off mute.
Hey, V. Yeah, it's Jim Phillips. Hope you're doing
hey,
well.
I was hoping it was you, but I'm not sure because there could be a lot of.
Yeah, there's a lot in the country. That's right. Yeah.
It's so good to hear from you. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Thing. So I'm going to have a new website for a startup I've been working on come out in late July. And I was just sort of trying to think through what I might need to do in advance. I know it's sort of like a product launch. I guess it's a service launch. What are the different things? One thing that came to mind just as an example is you probably don't want to put the new company out on LinkedIn until the website's up, just right, because people are going to immediately, that's going to go out to 1,900 people and they're going to look and they're not going to see anything. That's just one example. There's probably 15 others. What are the things you recommend?
Yeah. So that one example you just gave, Jim, depends on how you're putting it out there. So for example, if you're just going out and saying, hey, I'm launching this company, yay, and that's kind of it, then they are probably, if they're interested, they're going to go look for a website or additional information that might not exist. However, you can build a buzz or an interest list prior to launching a website just by changing the messaging a little bit. So for example, I'm really excited to be working on a new product or service or company or however you want to word that, around, and just very basic. So I'll give you an example. Right now, we are in pre-launch for a second company called Maestro Mentors, the full name, but Maestro, where we are going to do matched placement for interns or for students into value-based internships. So this isn't something where I'm like, oh yeah, I just put all that together overnight and let me throw it. But what we're doing is Dan and I, as we're meeting people, are gauging interest. Like, oh yeah, we're creating a new company where we're going to place interns. If you're interested, let me know and I'll add you to the information list. And that's it. And so what we're doing is we're building an email list of people who have said, yeah, I'm mildly interested in that. Let me know what the details are when they become available. So we've got dozens of people on an email list now that, that we're building so that when the information is ready and the website is live, we can just send them an email and say, here, it's ready. Go look at it. So there are ways that you could maybe build up a buzz ahead of time. And I don't know how proprietary the idea is, but if you can give some general information to gauge interest, you might find that people want to be added to a contact list. Yeah.
Okay.
And then what was your question about, what's the overall question?
Well, I was trying to come up with my own list of things I could do prior to launch to get ready. So that's really interesting. So the business is, I'm going to be starting a real estate development firm to build addiction treatment facilities throughout the country.
Okay.
And so, the persona is really just executive directors of nonprofit organizations that treat addiction, that want to grow. And so it's a very defined niche from that perspective. But it's not somebody that I've got, a huge amount of lists in my contact database ready to go, right? I mean, you could download car for somebody. So, but I would assume that I could probably do other things in advance of that as well, whether it's written notes or emails or something in addition,
Yeah.
besides just saying, hey, here's my website.
Yeah. So absolutely. So again, it depends on, your time versus investment ratio there. So ways that we have approached that kind of, we'll call it, kind of cold outreach previously. There's a company called Zoom Info. It's not cheap. But if we can connect offline about this, but they have a database of professional, like registered professionals in the country, and it's millions and millions and millions of people. And you can search by parameters, like you just said, addiction centers, directors, owner, like that kind of thing, within certain geographic territories and, income ranges and all kinds of stuff. And it will produce a list that says, here are all those people and their contact information. So, I don't like to quote buy lists, but we have used Zoom Info, for ourselves and our clients before, because it's just giving you, like updated information. It's not like they took that information and sounds weird. They didn't like buy it from where they signed up for something, and it's like public information. It's just a really clean database of all those things. So you could hypothetically use something like that to generate a list, and then develop an email sequence and or a handwritten note or a phone call or a LinkedIn approach. You could also do that on LinkedIn. You can go into LinkedIn and search general parameters that are similar to that. Find these people. Not joking, Jim, like we have our interns do this. So when a client says, I'm interested in meeting this group of people and they look like this, we can fill out that information, hand it to an intern and say, log into this LinkedIn address and go find these people and send them this pre-approved message. And usually, the pre-approved message usually includes like a calendar link to book an introduction call. So sometimes we'll do that on a second message, like, hey, I'm developing this business, or I would be, love to learn more about your business, or however you want to word it. And then once they accept the connection, we'll send them a second message that says, hey, I really appreciate it. I take my LinkedIn connections very seriously. And then some sort of thing. I'd love to, grab a few minutes of your time to learn more, or, I'm starting this business and I'd love to get your advice. People love to give other people advice. And then, here's a calendar link to go in and just, book a 15 or 20-minute virtual hang with me. And then, we see people, and then it automates the process. So you don't have to go back and forth 800 times, booking meetings with people. So,
oh, sure. Right.
yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
those are a few ways, but, I'm not sure if you were on earlier, when I was talking to Matthew about, your network, Jim, is huge. So it's going to be, not just the 1900 people on LinkedIn, but like, I've known you long enough to know, a lot of people, right? So like, I'm sure that if you did something similar where you sent an email or multiple emails with progress reports, to people within your network already and said, this is what I'm doing and who I'm looking to meet. If you know anyone, let me know. You'd probably get some good, momentum from that.
Oh yeah, I was on that. That's great. I will absolutely do that. And then I think I need to have like 4 weeks of content ready to go after that, would you say, or maybe more?
Yeah. We recommend that if you can have a 4 to 6 week buffer at any time, that's how our agency runs. So that if anyone is on vacation or on maternity leave or, whatever, wins the lottery, we're not like, oh crap, we didn't have a post ready or a blog ready. So if you can have that content available ahead of time and then just continue that cycle, that would be great. But you're probably, because of the industry that you're going in, you're probably going to see, a big benefit with search engine optimization. So it's super niche, it's a
absolutely.
like high level. So that blog content and the website development will be really helpful too.
It's going to be me over the next few months. Thanks for your help. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Congratulations. Guys, I have time for maybe 2 more questions. I have to jump off at 11. Does anyone else have any other questions I can answer? I know. I do the wait thing because usually there's someone who has a question, but they're like building up the courage to ask the question or to jump in. This is that last chance moment, guys. All right.
What is some final advice that you have? I'll take
See,
the
I
last
knew it was
one.
coming. Yeah.
I'm gonna take the last like slice type of person.
No, you're good. You're like, oh, that what? No one's gonna eat this. I got it. Yep. I appreciate that. What was your question?
I was gonna say, what's like some of your parting advice, I guess, for consultants?
Yeah.
I recently opened my consultancy, got 2 great clients underneath me, and now, you know, I want to work internationally. Like I want to work with not-for-profits across the sea, or you know, individual clients. How does one then, you know, kind of like find their way or establish themselves as so how does a marketer, I know how to do it, but I'd love to hear their opinions. How does a marketer market themselves?
Yes. Well, so you are a marketing consultant?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So okay. That's just what my business is. Okay. So
Right.
essentially, earlier when Matthew was saying I'm the brand, you kind of have to determine how you want to go to market. So do you want to market as, hey, I, Fortune, am the expert and the consultant, and working with me is the value add. And so in that case, you want to market it around yourself.
Okay.
Right. And so you want to be building up your own subject matter expertise. You want to do, community involvement, public speaking, mentoring other people, being available to just basically to show people I am an expert individually, and you would hire me for that expertise.
Okay.
That's how I started my company. And then quickly I had too many clients to handle all of that. And I was like, oh, I got to get some help around here. So within a couple of years, it was like, this doesn't make any sense anymore. I need to be talking about the team's expertise and capabilities, not me, because I'm not individually servicing every single client.
Right.
So I have a friend here in Nashville that similar thing, started herself, started working with other people. Her business is called the Torchlight Collective. So she sort of branded it in a way where it's like, no, this is a whole group of experts. And while I might be the one who brought you to the table, let me introduce you to all of the experts that I know in individual areas of the services we offer. That's how we do it too, Fortune. So I am really great at that, what you were calling it, the ideapreneur, right? Like, man, I'll come in with the strategy and we can do this. And what about that? And you can try this. And then I go, okay, what do we want to do? That? Cool. Let me introduce you to a whole team of people who do exactly that thing all day long. And if you need me, I'm over here, but they are better suited to handle you, right? To service this account. So I know a lot about SEO, but we employ an SEO expert to do that work.
Okay.
Right. So I am really good at strategy and like, I know how to bring people in, and that's great. But you have an account manager. She's also really good at that thing. And she's going to be the one calling you every month to go over your reporting. Right. So it kind of depends again on what your goals are. And if you want to scale at some point, you need to be careful about making like, is it too much about you where clients wouldn't be able to detach? Or is it, no, I don't intend to hire people and grow. It's just going to be me. And as long as I'm busy, that's what I want. Then great. Like make it all about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I don't think that I'd be able to like create a firm or an agency. So I'm often in awe when people like have their agency and their group of people, you know?
Yes. Don't doubt too much, because all of a sudden you'll be like, someone needs to help me. And it is very easy to find contractors to do stuff. So you could be an accidental, agency owner before you know it.
That's true. I never considered it. That'd be exciting.
I didn't either until I had way too much work to do. And then I was like, I guess, yeah. So awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And then Mark's got the last question here. I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't see it in the chat earlier. Do MailChimp and Constant Contact restrict recipients to those who have given permission? If so, they can't use these with email lists created from online searching or prospective customers. I think that you had that question in relation to what I was talking about with Jim, which makes total sense. To answer your question, the answer is kind of yes and kind of no. So for example, if we pull a list of emails from Zoom Info and we send them an email, we always, you have to have the unsubscribe on there if they want to unsubscribe, which some people will. But they really do it more. It's more like a filter. So you can send anyone an email. You want to be cautious. I'm talking about in Nashville and United States. I know that different countries and different areas have different email laws. So we don't want you to break any of those wherever you are. But for us, if we send them an initial email, they're welcome to unsubscribe. Most people won't unsubscribe. And so you can offer an opt-in where you can say, hey, we'd love to add you to our email list. But to my knowledge, like we've done research on to make sure that we're compliant. Like it's not illegal for me to send cold outreach emails to people. Like we get them all the time. We send them, we're not abusive about it. We usually will send, a series of maybe 2 or 3 to see if there's any interest. We'll try to connect with them simultaneously on social media or a phone call. And if we don't get anything, we let it go. So with the filters though is where you'll see people not getting emails. So for example, if we send something out through MailChimp, there is a percentage of our audience that will never even see those emails because they immediately get put into a spam filter. It's the same with Constant Contact. So we assume that's the sales numbers game. You have to send enough emails that enough people see them, that enough people engage and don't unsubscribe, that enough people click on something that you can actually have some reasonable phone calls. Our big thing is we just try not to be abusive about the way that we send emails. We're not sending them every day. We're sending like one every week or 10 days, for like 3-ish times. And then we see if we get a response. So yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Everybody, I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you guys coming with some really good questions. I believe that I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. So just in case anyone has follow-up questions or you want more information about what we do, to help with marketing, mentorship, and things like that, we are happy to share that with you guys. But thank you for being here today. And I hope everyone has a lovely Tuesday. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.